Welcome to this edition of Backstage Pass with Lia Chang. I'm your host, Lia Chang.
Woo! I am finally getting to sit down with one of my favorite people on the planet, who is also one of the busiest women on the planet. She's currently starring in the Broadway production of Suffs, and I'm here to spill the tea.
That's right. And here we are. Cheers to us.
This is your third Broadway show in less than a year.
Yeah.
What does that feel like, Jaygee?
If you would have told me when I first moved to New York in 2004 that I would be doing 3 Broadway shows in 1 year, I would have never, ever believed you. It is surreal, and when I think about it too much, I think I get a little freaked out, but I'm just rolling with it. It's just how the cookie crumbled,
Right.
and I'm just trying to take it all in stride.
Well, and 3 very different projects.
Yeah.
So let's actually start with Shucked.
We intentionally, when we were getting Shucked ready for Broadway, didn't talk about what the show is about. We didn't say anything just because they were like, it's a musical about corn. But it's so much more than that.
It is so much more than that.
And it's about family and community, and also just getting a bunch of people together post-pandemic. I mean, we're still in the pandemic, but during this time of still questioning what is happening in the world, but having people laugh and have a good time and let go of all your troubles for a while.
One of my friends, a fan that became a friend, Matthew Dodson, saw the show 70 times.
No.
Yes, he saw the show 70 times.
Has anybody seen
the show?
any show that you've been in 70 times?
Well, now, besides Shucked, he did see Here Lies Love, I think 7 or 8 times.
Okay.
But people just loved it. It struck a chord with them. It's funny because as I'm saying, I'm not sure if it's in the shot, but that's one of our corn props. That's a piece of corn that Tony Award winner Alex Newell signed with a red Sharpie. And we used those corn cobs for the props that we used in the corn kick line in the show. And on my last day, I kind of took it for myself. And yeah, it was such a fun experience, and bringing joy and being silly, and we were all idiots on stage. We were all idiots backstage, and that kind of love and silliness translated to the show, and people had a great time every night.
Well, I was lucky to be there on your opening night, and
That's right.
that was the first time I'd seen the show, and it was just so lovely to see that much diversity on stage. In every iteration, ensemble, leads, love interests, non-binary. Of course, you guys were nominated for so many Tony Awards and won a few. Now, from that, you flew right into Here Lies Love, which you have a great history with.
Yeah, I've been on the Here Lies Love journey for 10 years. It started in 2013, and then in 2023, they had auditions for Here Lies Love, and over the years, they were talking about bringing the show to Broadway, but it always fell short. Something always happened. So it was like this carrot dangling, telling with different producers, different friends, saying that Here Lies Love is coming to Broadway, and after a while, I was just like, no, it's not going to happen. So when I heard that it was coming to Broadway, and I was in Shucked, which I loved so dearly, but Here Lies Love has always been everything to me. It's always been my why for everything, all the reasons that I'm an artist.
Well, and also the all-Asian American cast. I mean, there are so many things that speak to you as an artist. The visibility factor, etc. So what was it like to play to almost 1,300 people in the Broadway theater?
Well, to have all of our brown faces on that stage every night, telling a story, a Filipino story about our history, about a specific time in our history, was a dream come true. It's always been a dream of mine to have a story that happens to be Filipino on Broadway, just because I feel like our contributions to theater have always been present, and to share our stories is so significant. And then being able to be with Lea Salonga, who is the reason why I'm even in the business in the first place, was another dream come true. And yeah, Here Lies Love on Broadway, right. And then also being with Lea Salonga on Broadway, even more so.
And working on the projects that mean something to me, and just take advantage. I've been saying yes to all of the shows that just feel like they're important, and then I ended up going to Broadway. Wow.
Now, you were such a queen at the public in Here Lies Love, and that was for 150 people in the audience.
Right.
And yet you truly owned the Broadway theater, and that was a whole different sort of configuration. What was it like to make that adjustment?
Oh, well, thank you, first of all. Well, with Alex Timbers, our director, when the show was first conceived by David Byrne and Alex, it was this pop-up theater space, right? Or pop-up dance club. So at the public, it was only 150 people, and the stage was around you. It was like you're in a dance club. But when you do it on Broadway, you've got 1,300 seats. So a lot of the changes that needed to be made was for the seats in the balcony and the mezzanine level. And so a lot of the notes that we got from Alex was like, play out to the house, because even if there are people on the dance floor below you, by playing out with your chin up, not only will the people in the back be able to see you, but it'll also, the people around you on the floor will experience it as well too. And you think the thrill of performing in an immersive space at the public was exciting, with over 1,000 people on the dance floor. You were there. You were in the front mezz when you saw the show.
The first time I saw the show, thanks to the graciousness of Mr. Jason Ma.
Jason Ma, we love you.
I sat in the absolute best seat in the house.
Center, front row.
And it wasn't
mezzanine.
until 5 minutes before the show that Ali said, "Oh, Jaygee's going to come right here." Fortunately, many people showed up for Macapugay. And
Oh, I have my bracelet. I wore it today.
and that means that there were people that were documenting you from every angle.
Yes. Maca Tuesday. Again, my husband hated this idea because I was the Tuesday night Imelda Marcos, and I had a fan that sent this to me, and so I'm like, babe, to my husband, I'm like, I have this idea. Hashtag on social media, whenever I go on, it's Maca Tuesday. He's like, that's the worst idea I've ever heard. He was like, no one's gonna get it, but it caught on.
It caught on, and you sold out the houses.
I did.
You
My
did.
last performance was a fully sold out audience.
So Here Lies Love ends, but you started working on Suffs when it was at the Public Theater.
Yeah.
And now you're on Broadway with it.
It's been so much work that I'm not necessarily thinking about the impact that it's making, except when I leave the show and see all of the fans at the stage door line for Suffs, and how much the show seems to be making an impact on them as well as myself. It is an all-female creative team. We've got Lee Silverman, our director, Maite Natalio, our choreographer, and of course the singular Shayna Taub, who wrote the book and lyrics, creating a story about the women's relentless fight for the right to vote. The people that have signed up to be on board with what we're trying to do, we have Malala, Hillary Clinton, Senator Clinton has been in our rehearsals.
Well, she's a huge theater fan.
She's a huge theater fan, yes. And then she's been also, it's so gracious of her because she also believes in our story. One of her favorite lines from the show that she's been quoted on saying on Jimmy Kimmel, Kelly Clarkson, is progress is possible but not guaranteed. And it's that lyric that Shayna created is so true, because it takes all of us continuing to fight for our rights. You think about how much we've advanced since we first got the right to vote, but then as soon as those rights became official, it's like we're still being knocked down. There are people that were bashing on a certain news network, bashing Hillary for being a part of Suffs. And they were saying the same propaganda terms that were said in 1900s about women being complainers and suffering because they're suffragists. They were like using all these like terms that I was like, I couldn't have made this up. It's the same negative language that was used back then for our show about women's voting. We're such a threat. Are we really such a threat? Like the show is still full of drama, exciting, but we're having fun on stage. Shayna's written new songs that just feel like this is the time for us to be telling this story. We're having more fun. It's leaving an impact. People are laughing. It's fun. It's funny, and it's just like the perfect time to be telling the story right now, because I feel like our voting rights and the women's rights are continuing to be taken away with the overturning of Roe versus Wade, and there's a threat to our democracy right now that I feel like having a show like Suffs will make people realize that we have to continue to keep fighting for what we believe in. Otherwise, it's going to get taken away.
That's why I play a white woman as Molly Hay in Suffs. But for me, like my why of being in the show is to have visibility as an Asian American woman on stage.
And there are several Asian American
There are
female cast members.
How about
but
that? You
also-
can have more than one Asian
Oh my
American
God, standing next to one
performer.
another?
Yeah, like what?
In a show that isn't Asian American?
Right. I mean, that's the thing. Like, it did feel like when I was first starting out, Hunger Games, because there could only be one Asian person in a show. But what I love about our creative team is they're looking for the right people for the role.
And speaking of your creative team, you've worked with Lee Silverman quite a bit. So she's really someone that knows you.
Yeah. She
knows what you're capable of and knows where to push you into, I would say, for Soft Power and for Wild Goose Dreams, right?
Yes.
So then leading into Suffs.
Yeah, I've worked with Lee several times over the years. She's like my, she's gonna hate me saying this, my fairy god director. Because the projects that she's had me be a part of are something that I didn't necessarily see for myself. And she sees something in me that I would maybe dream about, but not actually think, oh, nobody would want to see me in that kind of role. Because I know that I am bubbly and goofy, but I also want to play roles with depth. And with Suffs, like, it's not my role isn't comedic, you know, which I like to say I do pretty well. But she's also given me roles where I play funny in that as funny too. But yeah, it's good to find your mentors that believe in you.
You know, I grew up in a household where you kind of just blended in and you didn't ruffle too many feathers. Immigrant parents, you do your job, you study hard in school. You don't try to make yourself stick out. So as I've gotten older and I've realized that the world can be truly horrible, politics, racism, disparity, income disparity. I would never say that I'm a political activist, but I want to be a part of the movement. I've gotten louder in my own way, and working with David Henry Hwang and Lee and Hillary Clinton and both Soft Power as a character and as a producer of Suffs, I feel like I'm in the right place. I feel like I am supposed to be where I am.
And it's also sort of like never in a million years did you necessarily think that this is the position that you would be in your lifetime, or certainly not in 2024.
No, I mean, I started out as an ad exec in Chicago, Illinois. That's what I started performing. But I knew, like, deep inside what I really wanted to do was to be an artist. But nobody in my family was. Like, Filipinos love to sing, but nobody pursues it as a career.
How old were you when you thought, oh, I really like doing this? Not necessarily, I really like doing this, I think I'm going to do it for my life, but I really like doing this, and what were you doing?
Well, if you ask my mom, she'd tell you probably just as a little kid was singing into my hairbrush and making stories, talking to myself in my bedroom. She said I was always singing, always talking, and always coming up with musical ideas and home. And for her, just can you imagine just like a little Jaygee running around while both my mom and dad are just reading the newspaper, but I'm still like living my best life singing. That was, growing up. But yeah, I started later. I started high school, junior year.
What did you do?
Was
a show at school?
Yeah, I was Seidel in Fiddler on the Roof, because when you see me, you think Russian Jew.
Right?
So I did that. I was Rosie Alvarez in Bye Bye Birdie, and then I went to college.
So you were tackling the musical canon.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, where did you go to college?
Went to the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. I got my degree in advertising, and not a singer, not a performer whatsoever. It was only after I'd worked at an agency for a few years that I was like, I really want to perform, but I don't know how to do it. So I auditioned for Disney World on my day off.
Okay. They had open calls in all cities?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, you didn't have to fly to Florida to...
No, Disney World at the time, and probably still, they do a national tour of auditions across the country.
Okay.
So I took a day off from my advertising job and auditioned for Disney World at the Hubbard Street Dance Company in Chicago, Illinois, and they asked me if I wanted to move to Orlando, Florida in 2 weeks. And I was a singer at Disney World at the Animal Kingdom in Tarzan Rocks.
And how long were you there?
I was there a long time. I was there for 5 years.
Okay.
And that's where I cut my teeth in performing professionally, and I really liked it, and I realized that I found my people. And
So you found your tribe.
Yeah. I found my people, and I felt like this is what I want to do. So at Disney, you can either be there and work there for the rest of your life. It's a good launching pad or landing pad for your career, but I knew I wanted more, and then I moved to New York in 2004. Well, I'll say the first one that comes to mind was Summer Stock, Seaside Music Theater. I think it was 2006. I played Amneris in Aida.
Wow.
Yeah. And I could never play it now because it was a different time culturally, and there was different ways of viewing casting then. Mm-hmm. Like, I would not play that role now.
It was a different kind of non-traditional casting.
Yes. But
someone thought you were right for the role, period.
Exactly. Yeah. And it was a show that wasn't about me being Asian. The role of Amneris is funny, expansive, powerful, and when I think about positive theater experiences, I think about the team that came together. And Donna Drake was our director. I haven't seen her in years, but she was always like pushing everyone in the cast to just think big. You're the channel for the story, and I loved playing that role. And the costumes, oh my gosh, I had like a peacock feathered capelet that I like went across the stage, and I had like the peacock head. It was very fun. It was really, really fun role to play. And the first time that I felt like I could do comedy. So I love that. Imelda and Here Lies Love, that show will always, I don't know, it's just the dream. It continues to be the dream. I will always love that show, and if it ever comes back, I will say yes, again and again. And then the third show is On This Side of the World, which is by Paulo Tirol.
Love On This Side of the World. I love.
While my dream of having a Filipino musical on Broadway, that's about the Marcoses, and I feel like that story is important and needs to be told. But they're Filipino American stories, and Paulo's Filipino immigrant song cycle encompasses all these different. So picture this: a young girl is
such a beautiful word.
in school
You know
and
that
has a crush on her
feeling
ESL teacher, and
when
doesn't
someone
know
you
how to
like
tell
is
him.
nearby. And that ticklish, tingling, trembling
Jenny?
begins when they look you in the eye. And the butterflies in your stomach start to lift you off the ground. Deep inside, you can't stop screaming still. There's not the slightest sound. And the smile in your heart is 1,000 times bigger than a smile could ever be.
That's kilig.
As we say in Filipino. You know how music starts to play when he brushes your hand. How you start to stutter and sputter and shudder and say stupid things you hadn't planned. It's the room insanely spinning. It's the shivers down your spine. It's the jumble of sensations you can't even hope to define. And your brain is exploding, it's driving you crazy. You wish that it would end. Yet you never want to lose it. Like the sweetest, stickiest glue, kilig is the stuff that's got me stuck on. Keep it coming, let the feeling stay, and let it keep on humming, let the music play. And crash around me, thrash around me, drown me too. I'm intoxicated, inebriated. I'm all fixated on. You know what's funny? I never thought I'd find it here. Never thought in this land of the strangest of strangers, kilig would appear. But here it is, stronger than it's ever been. So strong that though my country's halfway round the planet from here, I'm feeling right at home. And for someone who's only just learning its meaning, you're awesome at causing kilig. Yes, you. Well, that took some explaining. So take this not so subtle cue. Tell me, do I make you feel kilig?
Jenny,
Too.
it's time for your presentation.
Broadway Barkada is the gift that keeps giving. It's my family. It is where I go to if I don't want to think about the industry, but I still want to be around artists that are my people.
That you can trust.
That I can trust and laugh with and have fun.
Oh, and more importantly, have tea, Liz Casasola.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, Broadway Barkada was founded in 2009 after the first Imelda Marcos musical, and we all wanted to create a group where we can have fellowship, and that was, none of us were on Broadway yet, but then it manifested, yeah. And now we do these incredible gigs, like singing the national anthem freaking at Madison Square Garden. It was fantastic. It was a rock star moment. I'm a storyteller, and the stories that really speak to me are the ones that are Filipino, Asian American, and about women. And it's something that I strive for and I take a look at in every audition that comes across my way or from people that I meet, that if it doesn't strike those three things, you can hold me accountable. I don't want to do it. Like choosing to have my Filipino body on that stage or in that film is also an act of defiance, and I acknowledge that's what I would love to be on more projects that are on the world stage. TV, film, Broadway. Talking about our rights can be exciting, sexy, fun, and it doesn't have to be about a love story, but that there's so much more that needs to be done. And when you go see Suffs, you're actually a part of the movement. Mm-hmm. I've met so many people at the stage door. They're like, what can we do now? What can we do to keep the fight going? How can we get involved? You feel like it's, again, an act of activism and defiance by seeing the show, that it's a call to action. Yeah, I love it. Thank you for coming over.
Well, cheers. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Thank you for joining me for this edition of Backstage Pass with Lia Chang. Go see Jaygee Macapugay and the entire cast of Suffs at the Music Box Theater.
Yeah.
I got every single extra the newsboy on F Street had.
Suffs is making headlines on Broadway, and now it's nominated for 6 Tony Awards, including Best Musical. And like the best Broadway musicals, Suffs humanizes, empowers, moves, and entertains. It's the perfect show for where we are right now, and it will inspire you to keep marching. Suffs, the Tony-nominated Best Musical on Broadway. Visit suffsmusical.com.